Matt, tighten it up. The first 5 seconds are all we have to capture their attention.
Hey everybody, welcome to Variable Gamecast. I am your host, Matt McGregor, the hero of time management. In front of me, Brandon, the Professor Ranelli, making his...
No one does that. Shit.
What are you talking about? This is great so far.
It's not great for our levels.
What are you talking about? We only redlined really bad at the beginning.
Perfect.
We won't redline anymore for the remainder of the podcast. So we are rebranding the show. We decided that we were going to do a video game book club, but during our first episode, we inadvertently called it the book cult.
Yeah.
Where there are no books and there are no cults.
But it's a book cult.
So I want everyone to...
About video games.
I want to welcome you all to the second episode of Variable Book Cult. Where there are no books, there are no cults. Thank you for tuning in.
We'll bring the books, you bring the cults, and it's all about video games.
We bring the books?
Yeah.
All right.
You can't... Well, I guess we would be the ones to start the cult then, no?
Yeah. I don't think you start a cult. I think you fall into a cult eventually.
Basically.
No one goes out and says, I'm going to start a cult. Do they?
We do.
Do we? Okay.
We do now.
So, today, we're going to be looking at Shadow of the Colossus, but not the 2005 game you're thinking of, the remake that came out this year, 2018.
Beautiful.
So, Brandon and I both have an affinity for this game, the original game especially. And that's kind of one of the meeting points that when we first started talking to each other, that was a touchstone for us. We're like, no way, you know what this game is? Not even just you played it, like, you know what this is and you love it?
Well, because there's like some smaller titles too that not everyone knows about that are like some cornerstones to your childhood. Like there was like some of those dot hack games that I personally enjoyed.
I love the dot hack games. I didn't know you played the dot hack games. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come back because we're going to talk about dot hack. Screw you, Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh my god.
I'm just kidding.
Full stop. But no, Shadow of the Colossus is unbelievable because it's such a different game style to what most people are used to in like action RPGs. Or these days where it all has to be roguelike elements and all that.
I don't think there's anything quite like this from then, but also now. So it's as poignant as it was in the mid 2000s as it is in the I don't know what to call it, 2018 late teens.
What?
Like 2000.
What year is it?
What year is it?
We're getting old.
The idea of it's almost like a boss rush mode, but the bosses are almost very puzzle-like instead. They just look like giant bosses that you'd see in a video game, but they have a lot of puzzle elements to them instead.
I know what you're thinking. What a stupid game with only bosses and fruit.
Just salamanders and fruit.
Just salamanders and fruit.
So, like I had mentioned, the remake of the PS2 classic, it came out in 2005. So this game is a complete remake from the ground up. So they've done a wonderful job updating the graphics for this game. So especially in the environments, I think the environments look amazing.
Well, top notch, and just like everything runs super smooth. Like there's not a single hiccup in it. The controls feel tighter. I mean, Wander always kind of has this wobbly sort of movement to him, but I think any of us would be wobbly when we're 10 stories up a moving creature.
Right.
But yeah, like they tightened up the controls. I like that they kept the really crappy control scheme from the first game.
Right.
But you can change it, which is nice. And this is where like that whole idea of making like a good remaster really comes to light. So
Agreed. So you mentioned the controls. So one of the big complaints about the original was the frame rate, which they addressed in this game. But the second thing was the controls, and that's something they didn't quite fix 100%. I think that the controls work serviceably, but I think it might be my only large complaint about this game is the camera. And the camera goes super wonky in certain spots.
Okay, so I'm gonna one up your camera as well and say steering aggro.
Right.
Riding your horse through like certain narrow passages in the game
You
is
son of a bitch. You speak about aggro one more time
Listen,
in a mean light.
I love that horse to death. But oh my gosh. Sorry. Oh, I lost my train of thought. Aggro aside,
Aggro's control scheme.
Aggro's control scheme, yeah. It's like pushing a bar of soap through through a forest.
Right. Yeah.
It's not working.
Agreed. I think that those are my only complaints. I don't really think the aggro being, because aggro's on a path now. You can actually just like
let him do his own thing a little bit.
That's
yeah.
right. So it's not.
He'll sort of auto path to the road, which is nice.
Right. Exactly. So I think they addressed it to a certain extent. I think it's just the controls. Were they, when Bluepoint was redoing Shadow, were they saying like we should really update these controls for 2018, or were they saying we need to respect the original and what that vision happened to be? So like we'll tighten the controls up, but we'll leave them relatively intact.
And it's a super fine line of like what do you keep the same versus what do you change. Like one of the really big fun points for us coming into it, and it's going to be really big for anyone who played the old game and is thinking about getting this new version, is the hard mode.
Oh man, absolutely.
So what our big turning point was as soon as we hit into that hard mode, because we started in normal just to warm back up those chops, but once you're in hard mode, the Colossus actually have additional weak spots that like any of you who played the old game will not remember, because they're completely new. So
which is awesome. It brings a totally new dynamic to the game.
New routes, like new sections of that Colossus's body you have to go over, which is kind of cool. Or like a different way to mount them initially, and they're like on hard mode a little more aggressive, a little more unpredictable. Yeah,
I agree.
Super interesting.
I love it. So we're gonna talk about what is your favorite Colossus.
Oh my gosh.
And your least favorite Colossus. We'll each give one each. You get one. You get one.
Can I? So.
No, you don't get two. Oh. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I do. So from a stylistic standpoint, I really love the second Colossus with the big stone sword. Because I think from a style standpoint, he's super wonky. He's got like, he walks on balls essentially.
Right.
Has this giant stone sword and funny hat. But from like a gameplay perspective, my absolute favorite has to be the giant like flying sand snake. That is like the fourth last one.
Future note to Matt that's editing this: put the flying sand snake in here now.
Nope, just kidding. Now.
I'm gonna put a picture of like me just laughing like a maniac during my first edit. Then I'll put the sand snake in.
Good luck, fool.
I think so. I'll forget it anyway.
But yeah, definitely that's my favorite. My least favorite is probably the other sand snake, which is the one that is like down in a cave and is like. I think
you're mental. So your pick for favorite is probably one of the most iconic, and probably is in fact oh
my god.
Not even probably. It is the best Colossus. So I'm gonna give a different answer, but that is such a amazing moment that they capture that on a PS2. In order to build, sure the graphics were less then than they are now, but the idea of like building something like that ran, like or chugged along anyway, to design something like that was something very, very special. The Sand Snake being your worst, I think it's a difficult fight, but I think the fight is very interesting because the boss is the Colossus is so fast and aggressive on you versus the remaining Colossus aren't as they're almost passive in some ways, where they're kind of not doing their own thing, like they're in your face, but like let's pick your favorite one for example.
But they're not stepping on your toes as soon as you enter the match. You sort of have a second as they sort of waltz towards you.
Right. This one's on your ass.
He's
like
out of nowhere.
And it's a really cool fight. I think. I think that it's unique. I think some of the fights do fall flat, only because of the boss design is somewhat similar. So take for instance. A lot of them are just like they're giant platforms. You're climbing up on these
giant living platforms.
That's right. Yeah. So, and this one was very unique. So again, it might have fallen flat for you, but I think that one is interesting. It brings something to the table.
To clarify, I suppose not necessarily that it fell flat for me. not my favorite just because it was very challenging what you have to do initially. Right? So, like, there's a lot of, like, not, like, direct hints, but you have certain things that hint you at what you should be doing to fight a Colossus. Right. This one was just very frustrating in that it didn't guide you towards any direction.
Right.
Which is good and bad. Obviously, there's good, like, huge reward when you finally figure it out, but it was almost just being, like, pissed off and being like, oh my god, really?
Right.
So, yeah, I have my qualms. What's your favorite, then?
My favorite, I think this is number 4. It's the flying Colossus. It's like a giant eagle.
Yes,
I think
over the lake.
That's right, exactly. So I think when I think of Shadow, when I think of the Colossus, I think of the flying sand snake that you picked for your favorite.
Oh my gosh.
But I also think of the moment when you're standing on the platform and the eagle swoops in at you and you have to jump and push the grab button and grab onto the wing.
Like, just at the right time. Otherwise, it just nails you and you go flying.
Right, and so it gets to come up with that on a PS2, which was basically had the internals of a Texas Instruments calculator inside, to make a character jump on a flying creature and then climb all over it in the air while there's like water being rendered and this AI that's trying to like whip you off.
Absolutely.
I think it's so impressive for and iconic. So I think that one really stuck with me from when I played it originally on PS2. But also this remake for the PS4.
Cool. I have a really good question for you, Matt.
Yeah, bring it on.
So if you were to give, now that you've played it, advice to anyone who has played the game previously, and also advice to people who've never played the game, never heard the game, what's your 2 bits that you would send off to them?
In terms
into the void.
To give them advice on like to...
Not necessarily gameplay advice, but like game recommendation. Would you play? Why would you play? Why is the big key to me. Because for a lot of people who like enjoyed the previous games, like okay, you know, it's Shadow. I've played it. It was a cool part of my childhood, but maybe you're not into that nostalgia, right?
Right.
Why pick this game up as a standalone game?
I think because it's so unique in the sense we kind of touched upon a little bit, but the idea of there's nothing. So it's 2018 now. It was 2005 when it came out. That's 13 years that it's existed, and there's still nothing like it. When I think of the emotional impact that I get out of it, so even if they said, oh, you know what, I played these games already in the past, there's no nostalgia here for me. I think the restraint and storytelling that you get, like there's not a lot of cutscenes in here. You're kind of filling in the gaps a lot yourself. So I think the ambiguous nature of what the story happens to be adds to it to such an nth degree that the less it shows you is what's important.
And from a gameplay perspective, right, having that hard mode with the new challenges and different weak points than what you might remember, I think that's like a really big additive for people who've already played the game.
Good point. Never thought of that. Yes.
That's definitely it.
Go find those 78 coins out in the world for whatever reason.
Oh my god. Speaking of which, talking about things that they've added, what a huge thing to add, like those types of collectibles or the fruit and like that sort of stuff.
Right.
Because in the original, the only thing I remember you being able to collect is lizard tails.
Right.
Which if you collect glowing lizard tails, it increases how long you can like hang.
Not your stamina, your grip meter, I guess you would call it. I don't know what to call it.
Your grip.
My grip.
My grip.
But yeah, I agree. Like I think there is enough changes here that if you played the original 13 years ago, this is something special that you need to have in your PS4 collection.
It's tasty, man. It's a tasty little game. You gotta have in that lineup.
Speaking of tasty, on a scale of 0 to 10, what are you giving Shadow of the Colossus there, Brandon?
Ooh, purple. Yeah, definitely.
Excellent.
Fuchsia? No, it's purple.
I'd give it a 26 sea foam.
Oh my gosh.
Take that, which you will.
One up me. No, but on a realistic note, like,
I know, right?
So, I personally would give it like an 8.5, 9.
I'm sending you my score right now.
Oh, yikes.
For
Matt, no, not that low. Goodness.
No, not even
2?
close.
No. I personally 8.5, 9. Like you said, there's nothing else like it in its class. Obviously, now that we've seen a little bit more, and like we've had other games like it, like The Last Guardian, which is in that whole same storyline.
Same studio.
Exactly. I think it's no longer brand new.
Right.
But there's still nothing quite to that extent, right? Like it's an exploration game, but the only sort of combat or goal in the game is just boss fighting. There's a stream of bosses.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know, very solid. Like
8.5, 9. What do you think? You pick one.
8.5.
8.5. I'm picking 9.
Okay.
So I'm right there with you for the exact same reasons that you just said.
I would have been a 9 if they tightened up the controls a little bit more.
Right. If Aggro had like Wolverine claws, and then that'd
Yes.
like push it into the 9.5 for me.
Yeah, you got it. Or if they had like loot crates that all
Yeah.
the AAA titles have.
If I could unlock Darth Vader in this game,
Oh my God.
they would definitely be an 11 out of 10 for me.
Can you just picture Darth Vader climbing up the Colossus and like stabbing them in the noodle with his lightsaber?
My guess is that you don't have to. You just kind of force choke them out, and then they eventually die, and then you move on. And then even the bad spirits don't get you. F those bad spirits.
Cute.
Cute. well put.
Oh my gosh.
Any final thoughts on Shadow? Like anything that, or I think we touched upon.
Nope, buy the game.
Agreed.
I've said this for other games before. If you are the bargaining type who doesn't necessarily want to buy it on sale.
And it's a budget title too, so I mean it's $50 brand new. So you can get. I've seen it on sale already for $30. Please go out, support the studio, show Sony that this is something that you want. I know it's a remake / remaster or whatever, but I mean at the end of the day, like it's such a quality experience to have on your system.
And it's a good way to burn 8 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's eight solid hours of gameplay. So, yeah, get out there and explore.
Get out there. Hear that? Get out there.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm sure I will put a bunch of crazy video that we've captured over our adventure of the last 8 hours up and about. So let us know how you feel about Shadow of the Colossus. Would love to hear from you. What are your favorite remakes? What are your favorite remasters? What are your favorite Colossus? What are your least favorite everything? The inverse of that.
Okay, talk to you guys later. Love you.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.